everybody. Welcome back to another Green and Malt review. I'm Chris, and this is Tamdhu 10-year-old. It's been a little while since I did one of these, and we got ourselves a new space to do it in, so I'm feeling a little bit off. I'm not quite used to this, but we'll get through it. We'll get through. So, Tamdhu. Kind of interested to do this review because this is a distillery that's still very new to me. I had no idea who Tamdhu was. I kind of knew that it sounded a little bit like Cardew Distillery. Didn't know if that was kind of some kind of offshoot or what, but it's one of those rare instances where I went into the local liquor store, saw the packaging, and was kind of enticed to buy it just based on the iconography of it alone. Doesn't happen to me very much. I don't particularly care one way or the other for the packaging of a whiskey, generally speaking. But this one kind of spoke to me. There's an elegant simplicity to it that I kind of enjoyed. The gentleman of industry and endeavor that they list on the labeling there, I just thought was a very cool linguistic turn that I quite liked. And it really spoke to an era of production sort of in the late 19th, early 20th centuries that that I hoped maybe they were trying to replicate, and that was further kind of reinforced with the design of the bottle. It's a very 1920s Art Deco, tall, thin bottle. That I'm not quite as fond of, but it's still a really unique kind of shape. So all that said is the packaging drew me in. I gave the bottle a try. 10-year-old single malt scotch from Speyside. It was about $88 here in Ontario. Why not? How bad could it be, right? Well, as it turned out, it can be pretty damn good. So, quite happy that I gave it a try. Tamdhu, as I later found out anyway, as I said, is a Speyside distillery, used to be owned by Edrington Group. Originally founded in 1897 by actually quite a large group of distillers, including William Grant. It's one of the, like most Scotch distilleries that have been around for 100+ years. You know, it's one of those open for 20 years, closed for a few years, open up, close. They've closed down 3 times in their history. Most recently by that Edrington Group owner in 2011. Under Edrington, Tamdhu was relegated largely for their blends, things like Famous Grouse. And so you didn't see a lot of, at least I never did, a lot of single malt releases of this distillery, at least not official bottlings. But they were mothballed in 2011 because of excess of stock. They just had too much in the warehouse. So eventually it was bought by Ian MacLeod, the same owners of Glengoyne Distillery. That was around 2013, at which point they reopened the distillery and started re-releasing a single malt range. I think right now the only age statement release is this 10-year-old. I don't think they have any others from the official bottling line, but you'll see some cask strength releases as well, both in an unlimited 10-year-old release and in a non-age statement version. I have the non-age statement version, but I haven't tried it. I'm kind of interested to give that a go next, but for now, let's focus on the 10-year-old. Anything else to talk about? As I said, Speyside Distillery. The name means something like Dark Little Hill in Gaelic, and this particular release is aged exclusively in sherry casks. I imagine it is chill filtered. It doesn't say anything about that on the label, but it does say it's natural color. I like to believe that that means there's no caramel in it. Although if you're cynical, you could take the take the line that caramel is natural theoretically, and therefore natural color could include caramel in it. I don't know. If it is without caramel, it is a lovely dark orange color, and I hope that comes just from the sherry casks. Who knows? I guess the company would know. But let's focus on the whiskey. As I said, it's 43%. I added a touch of water because for all the fact that it is only 43%, it really punches above its weight. It's a little bit aggressive. I like it, but it does benefit from a touch of water, especially on the nose. It really comes at you. But the nose is just, I think anyway, pretty remarkable. It's got a complexity to it that I wouldn't have expected from a whiskey of this age. Immediately, it's sweet, it's malty, it's toffee and nuts and almonds, right? Sweet, but just lovely. Honeyed almonds just is what always comes to mind. But behind that, a citrusy note, a mellow orange lemon citrus, like the flesh of the fruit. Not acrid, not you know, acidic in the way that a rind would be, but just sort of the mellow, fruity acidity of a citrus fruit. And then you get your chocolate. Surprisingly little dried fruit note that you might expect from a sherried whiskey, at least on the nose. I mean, I talked about that citrusy element to it. There's definitely kind of like a grapey quality to it, maybe some apple, but not much in the way of dried fruits, not much in the way of dark or red fruits. But that's okay, it's lovely nonetheless. And a little bit of that chocolate and underneath it cinnamon. I could sit here and sniff at this glass for an obnoxiously long period of time, but I think I'll save you guys that. Let's just we'll leave it at the nose being just pretty darn good. That's a sweet, very nutty quality on the arrival. Like I said, honeyed almonds when I was nosing it. In spades, immediately in spades, you get the honeyed almonds on arrival. And very malty, very much a cereal note. Toffee. But those sweet, malty cereal notes fade out. The almondy note sticks around through the development as you get a little bit more of the dried fruit that I said was missing on the nose. Shows up now. Still not particularly strong, but you do get a little bit of that raisiny quality. A little bit of that dark, dried plum or cherry, perhaps. Mm. The citrus. The citrus is lost, but those dried fruits are gained. And then as it develops through the dried fruits, as that nutty note sort of plays through the entire experience on the palate, you get a little bit of zestiness on the back end. The chocolate really comes through in the finish. Zesty, gingery, slightly spicy, cinnamon, peppery finish. Really dries out though. Doesn't stick around for a particularly long time. Very dry and almost like an earthy, grassy finish to it, underlying the nuttiness that really just plays through start to finish for me. The other aspect of this that I quite enjoyed that I didn't mention off the top of the tasting is that the mouthfeel, it's got a good weight. I mean, for a 10-year-old whiskey that's 43%, I didn't expect a particularly hefty whiskey, I gotta say, but it's got a nice heft, a nice weight, a nice viscosity to it. It's one of those things that you're very aware that you're drinking a whiskey. It doesn't feel like you're drinking water with a little bit of alcohol poured in there. To me, I kind of like that. So, anyway, I don't need another taste. I could sit here and sip it all night long, but we all have better things to do, right? Tamdhu. You know what? I said that it was owned by Ian MacLeod, and it makes a lot of sense now tasting this because it reminds me very much of the Glengoyne whiskies. I don't know enough about their production practices. I don't know what kind of barley they use when they're producing the Tamdhu single malt, whether it is that Golden Promise barley that Glengoyne uses. But there are some very similar aspects to this whiskey that we see a lot in Glengoyne whiskeys. The weight of the whiskey, the mouthfeel of the whiskey is very reminiscent of Glengoyne. the layers of flavors from the sweet, chocolatey, nutty notes that develop through the dried cherry notes. There's a similarity of experience there that really speaks to a shared production between the two companies, or the two distilleries, I should say. It's a good thing I really like Glengoyne then, and it really speaks to why I would enjoy this a lot. It's well worth your time. If you enjoy Speyside whiskies, if you enjoy a sherried whiskey, then give it a try, because I don't think you'll be disappointed. As I said, it's $88 here for the 10-year-old in Ontario. I think it's somewhere around $60 in the US. I think that's on the higher end of normal for here. If you're in other parts of the world, maybe you can get it significantly cheaper, and if you can, good for you, because we pay out the nose for this stuff. But I'm not disappointed in it. If I had to give it a score, I'd say something in the neighborhood of 85 out of 100. It's a very good daily drinker. It's one that I'm really kind of disappointed that I didn't discover earlier, but I'll be keeping an eye out for their other stuff in the future. And I really do hope that they put out some 12 and 15 and 18-year-old releases as their stock expands and they have the ability to do so. So, anyway, Tamdhu 10-year-old, give it a try. Well worth your time. Thanks, guys. Cheers.